So what is a comprehensive evaluation? How can a parent, a teacher, or other professional even determine if the evaluation was done comprehensively? So the word comprehensive is used, it's thrown around all over the country because it's a mandate that the school district evaluates students comprehensively. Comprehensively is looking at the whole child. Of course, first and foremost, looking at all the areas that present as a concern in the educational environment and across environments, right? It answers the question of why. It looks at learning styles. It makes very specific recommendations. It doesn't just say and just give information about a student's levels or how they're scoring compared to their peers. It needs to go deeper than that. You should feel like when you read the report that you have gained greater insight into your child or into your student, not simply that you that it's solidified that you know that they have difficulty in reading, or it's solidified that you know, oh, I knew that they had ADHD. He can't focus at all. That is not enough. It should give you strategies, and it should give you a different way of thinking and understanding what is being presented.
Yeah, and I would also say, maybe you're gonna go next on this, and you let me know, Krista, but comprehensive evaluation also is not done typically just by one person or professional, right? So it really depends on the reason for referral. Let's say that someone comes to me to do a to administer a psychoeducational assessment, but then and that's going to be part of the recommendations, that maybe, to get a full and comprehensive evaluation, we need a speech therapist. We need a neurologist. We need a behavioral therapist. So definitely within the comprehensive evaluation, sometimes it's not just one professional who is able to do it, but it needs a multidisciplinary team to come up with it.
Right. And we're definitely going to get into that. Erica asked a question. I know we said we'd wait till the end when we get to the chat, but it's really relative to this slide. What are essential parts of a comprehensive evaluation? And I know that what's essential can vary child to child. For example, if you have a student that is language impaired, it would be essential that we give them a nonverbal IQ test, right? There's certain things that will be included depending on the individual, but what are the key areas that you think that any comprehensive evaluation should look at and consider?
Typically, at least, you should take into account the intellectual functioning. You should take into account different cognitive skills such as attention, processing, auditory processing, visual processing. You should definitely take into account all the academic domains, from reading comprehension, reading fluency, math, academic fluency, writing skills. You should also take into account the visual, spatial processing. You should take into account the social and emotional development of the child through not only through direct testing, but also through the feedback, through specific questionnaires from the teachers, from the parents. And it depends, again, like those are the areas that definitely are essential. And then it depends on the reason for referral. You keep on digging in different other areas. Yeah. But again, the essential, it will definitely, as you said, Krista, it will depend on the nature of the referral, right?
And then also thinking about special considerations, right? So if you have a child that has a trauma history, or depending on, there's other special considerations. If you're in California, you can't even administer an IQ test to a child that's African-American because it's considered discriminatory. In that state, that bill passed. So I don't want to make that a debate of whether we agree with that or not, but there's things to consider depending on the special population and the individuality of the child.
And then, sorry, I know that we're going to be talking about later, but then the distinction between what is essential in a private evaluation may differ than in the public school, what is essential in the public school evaluation. So that's another thing.
Right, and that made me think of something else. And yes, I'm going to get way deeper into that later, but I think that whether it's private or public, that in order for the evaluation to be comprehensive, it needs to take in the input of the educators that work with the child, right?
So
that to me is really, really important. Under the best case of circumstances, observations. And don't tell me that you can't do an observation because of COVID-19, because you can do a virtual observation.
Of course,
We've learned
actually now it's much simpler now than before.
Right. So you can't tell me that you can't get somebody to do an observation, but that's very, very important. And then also what I've found to be important is the parents' input and that the integration of that into the evaluation. If you have two parents that are divorced, it's essential that you get both of their input and separate from one another. And even in the scenario where you have parents that are married, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to view the child the same. I prefer when the questionnaires are filled out individually by the mom and the dad, personally.
I always, even if, no matter what, I always provide the questionnaires for every parent. And even in the school, it depends. I would provide it to 2 teachers. So I can also have a variety of different opinions, not just one teacher. Yeah, you need to.
Exactly. And it depends on how many teachers they have, right?
Yeah,
because
that's
if you're in
right.
middle school and you have 6 teachers, then it might be important to get even more.
Yes.
All right, let's